how should I make a difference? And I remember my mentor at the time, my supervisor, said to me, she asked me this really important question a few weeks into my role. And she said, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? And I'm 32 years old, on a very fast trajectory. So my answer was simple. As fast as possible, I want to be in charge as the head of school of the largest school in my capital city, Brisbane. She said, okay. What is it about that position that drives you, that makes you excited and passionate? And again, highly motivated, ready for the keys to that door. I answered very quickly. I gave very quickly my answer. She said, yeah, I'm not too sure if you understand the question. She said, what is it about that position that really drives you, that makes you passionate and determined? So I tried again. Sadly, I failed. 3 attempts, and this young, highly motivated, upwardly trajectory professional felt like he was 12 years old. And she said, well, maybe let's talk about it in our next meeting. So fast forward about 3 to 4 months, she asked me again. And what I said to her was this. I want to be in a position of leadership where I can influence the behaviours of a large group of people and make a difference and have impact. She said, okay, you've got it. Because it's not the position or title. It's the impact that you want to have that you should be focused on. And now I'm doing something very, very different. I'm no longer a principal or a head of school. But my vision and mission is the same as it was when I was 32 years of age. I want to maximise impact across the largest number of people I can. And that's what drives me. So we launched our company back in 2010, my wife Shanna and I. And our goal was very much the same. We now operate across many different countries of the world. We've now completed 35 projects across 26 different countries. Our company is based out of America, but we don't spend a lot of time there. We currently have major projects in Saudi Arabia. We have 1 school already, and we have a contract to build 10 schools in 4 years. We have projects in Africa, Malaysia, Myanmar, many different parts of the world. Focus on a whole range of things from setting up schools to managing schools and improving schools. What commonly happens for us is an investor or developer comes to us and says, we want to move into the field of education. But we don't have the expertise. And when we first founded our company, that was our key niche. Because we realised early on that educators don't generally, and I apologise for generalising, but educators generally don't understand business. And business people generally don't understand education. And it's really important that we bridge that divide to make sure that schools operate well. And no, I don't separate schools as profit and non-profit. I don't at all. Some of the wealthiest schools in the world are non-profit. Without money, you have no mission. And without mission, you have no money. The goals are the same. It's about quality outcomes for kids, and the product of our education system is young people who are going to go on and make a difference. So we all spend a bit of time talking about this. We talk about what makes a school poor, not doing so well. We talk about what makes a school good, but today I want to talk about what makes a school great. What are those significant characteristics that make a school better than the others? Because there are schools that are really unique and really special. They're not just good, they're great. And I'm going to be honest with you. It starts with you. You, the educational leaders, the principals, the heads of school. The reason your school's performing badly is because of you. And the reason your school is performing good or great is because of you. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's just the reality. It's the reality. The only person whose behaviour you can change is your own. You can't change the behaviour of teachers. You can't change the behaviour of your board, of your parents. The only behaviour you can change is that of your own. And that's where the focus needs to be. If you want a great school, it is up to you, and that's where the focus needs to be. And there's incredible research to prove it. If you look around, spend some time on the internet, read some literature, the number one factor that will influence the success of a school is the principal or the head of school. Now, of course, we could have a conversation about teachers, and we would all agree as well that the most important thing that happens in a school is that interface that happens between a child and a teacher in a classroom. We're not going to disagree about that. But I'm sure you have seen, as have I, incredible teachers perform badly under bad leadership. Teachers are only going to perform to their potential under a great leader, under a great management. A leadership team who gets things out of the road so teachers can get on and do the job they're good at. And sadly, administrators, leaders and managers of schools often get in the road for all range of reasons. But we've got to make sure we remove the obstacles so that teachers can get on and do the job they're really, really good at. And that's maximising student achievement. Research also proves that the most significant factor that's going to change outcomes in a school is the leadership having a compelling vision. A compelling vision for the future. You don't need to look up a book to know the following, and that is that there are millions of schools across the world, millions, if not thousands, that are very successful. They all have a different vision. They all have a different mission. It's not the choice of vision or mission that makes the school successful. It's the fact that leadership has a compelling vision and they articulate it really clearly. What's the best curriculum? British, American, IB. The truth is, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I get asked this question all the time. Greg, what's the best curriculum? Well, it depends on the context. It depends on the families. It depends on the local context. Your choice of vision and mission is not what's going to make you successful. It's your ability to make it compelling and make it incredibly clear. We currently have some significant projects in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. I say I have 4 homes: Australia, America, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia. I literally have 4 homes. And there's a gentleman there affectionately called MBS, who has a 2030 vision. That is incredible. So incredible that we are regularly speaking to investors and developers and government officials on a regular basis. And they say the same thing. MBS does not have goals. He has plans. He's already hit more than 50% of his 2030 goals. Because they're not goals, because they are plans. Everything you talk about in terms of in education circles in Riyadh right now is all about 2030 vision. Every conversation you have, every goal and discussion about education quality includes the phrase 2030 vision. Everyone knows it, everyone understands it, and there is no doubt at all it's going to be hit. Because they are plans, they're not goals. So how does that translate to you? It literally starts with you. As the educational leader in charge of this organisation, it starts with you. Now, you don't have to be an extrovert. I'm an extreme introvert. Extreme introvert. You don't have to be incredibly charismatic in front of thousands or hundreds of people. But you need to be passionate and have that compelling and be able to communicate very, very clearly what that vision is, so that people get wrapped up in it and they understand it. That elevator speech that's talked about in industry, you need to have that elevator speech. You need to be able to, in 15 seconds, describe eloquently exactly what your plans and mission are for the future. You need to know that anyone in the community that goes to any of your parents or your children or your staff can say the same things you're saying about what the vision and mission is for the future. And that's what makes the difference when it's incredibly clear. I was fortunate to be deputy principal under one of the finest principals I've ever worked with, a gentleman named Alan Jones in Australia. And to fast forward, we won the National Award for Literacy in Australia for the whole of the country. And I don't take personal credit for that. I credit the principal in charge of the school. But let me tell you what was different about that school. every conversation included discussion about literacy. Math teachers were teaching procedural text in their math classrooms. Home economics teachers, design technology teachers were teaching procedural text. Science teachers, who normally were not focused on literacy, were talking about 5 W's plus H: who, what, when, where, why, and how. And how to structure responses to analytical questions, because literacy communicates thinking. That school was literacy. But as I said to you earlier, it doesn't matter what your vision and mission is. But that's what's going to drive you forward, is a compelling focus on that, and focus on that alone. And that's what's going to bring your staff on board. Your staff are going to follow it. Because I'm not trying to be contradictory, but the staff in the classrooms are the ones that are going to make the difference, thanks to your leadership. You're going to remove the obstacles, you're going to fuel the fire, and they're going to take this vision forward in the classroom with the kids. You need to be able to have a very clear and articulate vision and mission, and then be able to help them figure out how to get to that final product. The final product is an education system that's going to deliver children that are going to go out and make a difference. But then you've got to figure out the piece in between. Now I don't tell my physics teachers how to design curriculum. None of my business. But you know what? It is my responsibility to set the standard. I'm not going to get in their road and tell them how to design a physics curriculum and how to design a physics exam, but I'm going to tell them what the standards are. I'm going to tell them what the vision of qualitative assessment looks like. I'm going to tell them that the energy shouldn't be in their hands. I don't want to walk into their classroom and see them at the front of the room all of the time, delivering PowerPoint presentations. I want to see the energy with the kids. That's the standard. But you figure out how to get there, because we want most of our kids succeeding. And that's the difference. In our organization, we talk a lot about what we call vision and mission integrity. It's something we care a lot about. Every school has a vision and mission. But to be honest, it rarely matches practice. I'm looking across the room, seeing a whole lot of educators, and I'm sure you'll nod your head when I say we've all walked into schools, 10, 15, 20 minutes into that walk, 1 hour walking around the school. You know if it's a good school or not, don't you? You can just feel it. And you can see it. I walked into a classroom in Saudi Arabia last week, and I walked into that classroom and I said to Shanna, wow. It was messy with learning. Messy with learning. There was children's work all over the walls. The teacher wasn't at the front of the room. They were spending time all around the place. There was a little bit of chatter, but not too much. Those are the things that I could see that was showing that the school focused on academics. If I walk into a school and they say their vision and mission is academic excellence, and I see children lined up in rows and no one's speaking, we lack vision and mission integrity. If I walk into a school and I see that the school's mission is to be caring and focus on mindfulness, but a zero tolerance policy on everything behavioral, massive contradiction. A school that's focused on science and technology, or our school here in Malaysia that's focused on innovation. I want to see innovation in every single classroom. Otherwise, the school doesn't have vision and mission integrity. It's a contradiction in terms. But it's a principal's role, as I said before, to create that compelling vision and make sure it comes alive. So how do we believe that vision and mission integrity can be created? We believe in creating powerful guiding questions. So what happens is you set very clearly what the vision and mission is. Then you create a guiding question. Will this action, activity, decision, project, purchase, or direction maximize student potential? And we use these guiding questions to make sure the vision and mission is in practice coming alive. So if your vision is to maximize potential, and you're in that tough decision-making mode, you're talking about budgets, or you're with parents, or you're with teachers, and you're talking about new ideas, and you're not too sure whether to move forward, Will this activity, decision, or action maximize potential for kids? And if it won't, don't move forward. You're here at a conference talking about technology this week. Will that piece of technology maximize potential for you in the classroom? Will it accelerate outcomes for kids? If it is, move forward. If it's not, no business being in your classroom. I'm being direct with you because, look, it really is, it's so important. It's so important to make sure your vision and mission comes alive through practice. But often they don't. It's that sign on the wall that you use on your, or that marketing flag that you use in your brochures. But it's really important for it to come alive. And good schools are doing that really well. So here's an example that I partly created for Tesla. Their mission, this is accurate, is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That is the genuine mission of Tesla. And the vision is to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. So if that is their mission and vision, the guiding question should be, will this action, activity, decision, project, purchase, or direction deliver sustainable energy practices and make people drive vehicles? Otherwise, the activity shouldn't be happening. This is how we make sure the vision and mission comes alive. And with a school, I've already given that same example before. Will this activity maximize student potential? And if it won't, we're off track. And isn't it easy as principals or heads of school for us to get off track? We get so many distractions. How many fashionable ideas come out in education? Every couple of years. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. And as we get older, some people might call us cynical. But you know what? I'm pretty tough on new ideas. If it doesn't accelerate outcomes for kids, it shouldn't be there. If it doesn't maximize opportunities for kids, it shouldn't be in the school. Because these guiding questions must keep us on track. At GSC, our company, we refer to what we call signature experiences. Now, this is a phrase borrowed from other industries, but we describe it as the experiences that represent vision and mission in a school. So let's take, for example, Starbucks. Starbucks exists all over the world, and it's relatively the same in every place. We know it's Starbucks not because it's got Starbucks written on the front door, not because of the cups, but there are some signature experiences that prove it's a Starbucks coffee shop. And it includes things like they ask me my name and always get it wrong. And there's certain behaviors of the staff that are signature experiences that make it come alive. And back to my example before about when we go into schools, you too will have signature experiences that reflect your vision and mission. So we have the good fortune of creating brand new schools. We've created, I think from scratch, about 12 schools in our career. And it starts with a blank piece of paper. And this is how we do it. We do market research, feasibility studies to determine what the community needs. And that's going to help us decide on British, American, IB curriculum. But it's also going to talk about what that vision is. So, for example, it's not just a British school. It's a British school that focuses on science and technology or mindfulness or innovation or something else. So we decide based on market demands and what we understand about the community, what that's going to be. And then we say, what are the signature experiences going to be that reflect that vision and mission in practice? And it's really important for you when you walk around your school to identify what those signature experiences that either support your mission or the opposite actually detract from it. I've been in schools that have got this beautiful mission statement across about the front about, we care about children, we care about personal connection. And I'm walking through the school and I feel like I'm in a hospital. There's no smiling. No one's smiling. No one's saying hello. It's an awful school. I can just feel it. So signature experiences reflect or don't reflect the vision and mission. And this is a very important focus for us as educational leaders to make sure that we are successful. We also talk about principles versus policy. Another thing we notice about schools is that not all schools are focused enough on their values and beliefs. They're focused a lot on policy. So when we create a school, we do create staff handbooks. And sometimes they're pretty thick. But I've seen staff handbooks that are like 3 inches thick.
And I've been in rooms where questions have been asked and the response is, well, our staff handbook says on policy 4.4 that this is how we should respond. Seriously? I look at our staff handbook, we've got a number of schools, but I look at our staff handbook about 3 times a year at a time of crisis. I don't need to look at the handbook. I don't need to. I don't need to look at the staff contract. I don't need to look at that list of procedures because I understand the principles, the values, the belief system that drives our decisions. Let's talk about admissions procedures. Child comes to your school, wants to apply and join your school. They're 8 years old. They complete the admissions, the test, whatever it might be in that context for you, and you have a whole lot of information to decide. And you've got that tough decision with a parent because you've looked at it and you just don't think this kid's going to work out at your school. You could say, it's not our policy to accept your child in a school because they have a diagnosed learning difficulty. That's our policy. Let me phrase it differently. Oh, I love your son. He's such a unique boy. And I would love him to join our school. But you know what? I need to be honest with you. I care so much about your son that I need to be honest with you. We just don't have the resources to support your son yet. Can you see the difference? It's not a policy response. It's an authentic and genuine response about, can I meet the needs of this child? Staff performance. We've all got it, haven't we? We've got teachers that aren't performing so well. Turning up to school late, not doing their planning, rude to parents, a whole range of behaviours that don't match what we think is a suitable standard. And you get that, and you got those butterflies in your tummy, haven't you? Butterflies in the tummy, talking, oh, I've got to meet that teacher tomorrow, and I've got to talk to them because things are off track. Because the policy says so. Hey, Mary, please come into, have a seat. How's things going for you? Do you know what? I've got butterflies in my tummy this morning. I'm really nervous about this conversation because I really care about you. I want to make sure you succeed. But my concern is that there's a whole lot of things that seem to be off track, and I want to sit down with you today and work out what they are and what's going wrong so that together we can create a new plan to make you successful. I don't get that out of a handbook. I get that out of a set of principles that I value people so much that I'm prepared to have the tough conversations. Can you see the difference? But you've got to be comfortable in your own skin to do that. You've got to be solid in your own values and be prepared to live them. But I can have that conversation far more easily than I can that tough, ugly conversation where I say, do it now or else. Because if I genuinely do care, we're more likely to have a better outcome. The other thing is you need to be the instructional leader of the school. Talking earlier, one of the reasons we got into this business of setting up and operating schools is that we found that business people don't understand education. And I apologize for generalizing. Some businessmen get it, but there's a big divide. And I apologize again for saying this, but educators don't generally understand business. There's a real paradigm difference. Some people seem to think that because they attended schools, they know how to run one. I love restaurants. I love great food, but it doesn't mean I can run a restaurant. But the educational leader needs to be the instructional leader of the school. When I interview heads of school, some people say, well, what kind of things are you looking for? Like, what questions do you ask? How do you be sure that this person's going to reach your criteria? I'll be honest, I don't put a lot of time into what types of questions I'm asking because I know a good educational leader is going to say things like this. That's what they're going to talk about. Now, this list is not exclusive. You will have your own list that will have other things different to mine. But these are the kind of things I want to hear. I want them talking about Bloom's taxonomy, Mazzano's high-yield strategies. I want to hear that they know that compare and contrast is the highest yielding strategy that's going to maximize learning for kids. I want them to talk about critical thinking and how they've used core thinking strategies across the curriculum, across different content areas. I want to know that they care about literacy in mathematics and science as much as they do in humanities. And if I don't hear that, they're not the instructional leader. Because teachers there's no credibility for teachers. If you're a businessman in charge of a school, you can't do this. If you're an educator who doesn't deeply understand pedagogy, you can't have these conversations with teachers. So they're not going to be passionate about your vision, because your vision is about increasing student numbers, maximizing profit, keeping parents happy. I don't want to keep parents happy. I want parents to respect and value my professional focus. I can have a tough conversation with a parent when I tell them how much I care about their child and how this decision to suspend them is about all of us working together and making sure we can get things back on track so their child is successful. I can have that conversation. But you really need to make sure that education leadership reflects this. There's a concept called the petrichor signal. It rained this morning in Malaysia, and so it was timely for me to use this example. So science has proven that human beings, although we've evolved and lost a lot of our primitive characteristics, one of the things that's incredibly powerful still is that we can smell rain that's coming. Have you noticed that? You walk outside and you go, I think it's going to rain. Or when it starts to rain, you can smell that smell. You know that smell that comes just at the start of rain? It's scientifically been proven that of all the things we don't do so well now as a modern generation, just as dogs can sniff out drugs and food things and all sorts of things, human beings can still have this incredibly powerful sense. And I use this analogy because educational leaders have to have this same sense, that they can walk into a room and they can find data. They can find information. They can see things that are about to happen in advance. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about student achievement data. That's easy. You can press a button and find out how many students are getting A's, B's, and C's. You can do a school opinion survey if you want and find out what people think about you or the school or organisation. You can look at the financial numbers. I'm talking about other data. I'm talking about walking around the room and having a sense of exactly what's happening right now and what's about to happen next. And the greatest leaders are particularly good at this. They have incredible instinct. They can sum up a room or a person very quickly. Shana, my wife, is particularly good with this with principals, heads of school. Much better at it than me. And I'll often say to her, hey, I interviewed this person. I think they're pretty good, but can you come in and tell me what you think? And her answer is usually quite direct, and she can pick it up pretty quickly. She's very good at this. She has a sense of being able to capture all this information very, very fast and make decisions about going forward. So the strongest educational leaders have this sense of knowing what's around them. They have a sense of how the staff are feeling, how the parents are feeling, how best to respond in a crisis. Now, I've got a rule, and that is that I'm allowed to be imperfect for an hour. That's it. And my door's got to be closed. I'm allowed to be imperfect in my professional conversations with Shanna and the people close to me for just an hour, but after that, I've got to switch back to perfect. I've got to have solid ground. Insert Karate Kid analogy. I've got to make sure that I'm balanced most of the time so that I can make good decisions going forward. Any kind of crisis is going to push us off balance, but we've got to quickly find common ground. We've got to quickly find solid ground, use the data and information around us, and then make a decision going forward. You don't need to react straight away, because when you react straight away, you're probably off balance. But you've got to wait and learn the full picture from staff around you before you proceed. Because how often do we get it wrong when we prejudge or make assumptions about what's actually happening? So this is really important. My belief also is you need to be contrarian if you want to be particularly successful and have a great school. I don't particularly love Elon Musk, but what I love about him is he's always full of surprises. He doesn't do things the normal way. If Rip Van Winkle woke up today, there'd be two things that he would say haven't changed: churches and schools. Agreed? You can walk into any school, almost any school in the world, and they're all the same, aren't they? Relatively the same. I believe in being contrarian. How do you do that? I challenge you that for every significant decision where there's an obvious plan of action, try not to take it. We're so tough on our kids, but we're not tough on ourselves. What would you say to a kid in a classroom who puts a hand up and gives the first answer and it's an obvious one? Good answer so far. So why aren't we doing that as educational leaders? Why are we prepared to accept standard responses, standard pathways, standard models of education? We're telling our kids to be contrarian, to think outside of the box, but we're not doing it ourselves. So I believe that strong educational leadership is about being contrarian. It's about doing things differently, the way other people may not think to do it. I think that's a really powerful way of maximizing your impact and making sure that your school does make a difference. Otherwise, you're going to be just like the rest. And I'm not saying change for the sake of change. I'm talking about a considered decision to do things differently. Again, if you want to be a great principal, if you want to be a great educational leader, it certainly is going to start with you. It's going to maximize impact. It's about maximizing impact in every way you possibly can. And I want to finish off with a story that relates to that first appointment that I had when I was 32 years of age, taken over from a principal. I think they've been there 26 years. Now, you've heard me talk a lot today about, I hope, authentic leadership. I believe strongly in buy-in. I believe strongly in making sure that your staff buy into your vision and mission. I don't believe in autocratic leadership. I'm a huge fan of Michael Fullan and change management. I understand the implementation dip. I understand all of those things. But when I was first appointed, even though I was 32, everyone was telling me, hey, you're taking over from a principal that's been there for 26 years. People are going to be really resistant to change. I said, yeah, I know. They said, so what you need to do is just be really cautious because people are afraid of change. And you're going to need to be careful for the first 6 months. And I recommend to you, you shouldn't make changes too quickly. Don't make too many changes in the first year. Take it easy. I said, okay. So I listened to all of my mentors and I knew Michael Fullan. I understand all those change agent processes. And I didn't sleep very well the night before my first meeting. And I walked into that first meeting of that school as a principal, brand new principal, 32 years of age. I could just look around the room and they're going, who is this young kid? And this is the story I told them. I told them that before I got there, everyone told me that I need to be cautious. I said to them that all the advice I'd been given was not to change too much. And all of you I know are right now wondering, what am I going to change? And I know you're going to hope for an answer that says not much. I need to be honest with you. There's going to be changes. And I looked around the room to see if people were going to throw things at me. I said, there's going to be changes. I'm new. Do you want a leader or a follower? I have complete respect for all of the changes that have all the things that have happened in the school over the last 26 years. But the truth is, there's going to be changes. And it's going to happen two ways. First of all, I'm going to ask you for buy-in. I'm going to talk to you about the things that you want changed, and together we're going to do it. But let me finish with one final point that I hope you care about too. You don't have time to wait. If you're a parent and you go to a school and you talk to the principal about things that need to change and the principal goes, yeah, I agree, but we're going to take our time. What? Every moment matters. Every year matters. Every month matters. Every week matters. Every minute matters to those children in these classrooms. You're in an incredibly powerful position and you have a chance to make things good or bad. So I challenge you to realize that and to not hesitate. Be genuine, be authentic, get buy-in, but make a change now because our kids depend on it. The pandemic has proven that if you're not a critical thinker, you're going to fail too. The pandemic proved to us that only out-of-the-box thinkers succeed, those that are adaptable and that can move fast and change. You're telling your kids to be change agents. You're telling your kids to be critical thinkers. You need to do it too. The time is now. And I challenge you to make sure that you take that on board as well, to make sure that you can maximize impact in your education in ways also that the next generation are going to be different and better and improved and make a difference just like you have. Thank you.